Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today we are playing my beloved Green-Black Turbodepths. This is a deck that aims to win the game by putting Marit Lage into play, which is a 2020 flying indestructible creature. We make this off of the Dark Depths by either removing all the counters using a Hexmage, or making a copy that didn't have counters because it didn't enter as a Dark Depths using the Thespian Stage, and then we have a 2020, turn it sideways, game ends. We have some tutors to try and string these pieces together, so that's Sylvan Scrying and crop rotation. We have fast mana to make this happen quicker, using our Elvish Spirit Guide and our Lotus Petals. We have protection from things like Wasteland, using Pithing Needle. This can also work against Caracas as well. We've got some hand disruption in the form of Thoughtseize, Inquisition, and Duress, so we can definitely take a bite out of our opponent's hand and keep going. And we've got a couple of protective pieces in the form of Not of This World and the Sylvan Safekeeper. There's some nice silver bullets in our land between like the Talon Gate, the Sejiri Steppe, Ghost Quarter, Boseiju, and Bojuka Bog. Unlike other decks that tend to tutor for lands, we can tutor for them into our hand using Sylvan Scrying, which means that the Boseiju is something we can tutor up and actually use. So it's been very, very good. This deck has been struggling a little bit in the recent meta since Entomb was banned, really, because we were very good into the Reanimator deck compared to a lot of other decks in the format. But against Blue-Black Tempo, that was worse for us than the Reanimator deck, because we could just hose on the graveyard a little bit and get through. So this ends up being a slightly awkward format for us right now, and I haven't been able to find a list I really like. I've been trying to experiment with a bunch of stuff, and I thought, let's just go back to the classic Turbodepths instead of trying to have like endurances and reclaimers and all these fair plans. Let's just go back to doing the thing really quickly and going underneath people. In terms of our sideboard, we've got 4 Lane on the Void, because Oops All Spells is the best performing deck in Legacy right now, which is terrifying. We've got a couple of Collector Roof, which can help that matchup. It can help against Storm. It can help against the Painter decks. We have a bunch of ways of protecting our Marit Lage, so Sylvan Safekeeper and Not of This World, so we can go up to having many of these effects. And then we've also got 4 Abrupt Decay, which answers any problem permanents from like Ensnaring Bridge to Magus of the Moon. And that is the list. I've played it quite a lot on the channel over the years, so you can always have a look for some more content if you like the deck. And if you want to find some information about this deck, you can check out my Patreon. I'm still working on a sideboard guide. I haven't found a list I like in this current meta, which is kind of sad, but maybe this is it. Just going back to the old reliable. Okay, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's make some 2020 action happen. Have you got magic cards you don't want taking up space in your home, or do you just need some extra spending money? Well, my lovely sponsors, 3for1 Trading, are buying all collections, big and small. They are one of Europe's biggest traders and have a transparent process to sell them cards and make sure you're getting a good deal. Click the link in the description of this video to get an offer on your cards today. Alright, our opening hand is not great. We don't have access to the combo. We don't really have access to the mana we want. Now, our deck does mulligan quite a bit to get its pieces together, so this isn't really a shock that we're having to mulligan a hand. What about this one? This is, we can Sylvan Scrying on 1, but then what? I think we can do better. Let's go to 5. Well, we certainly have the Dark Depths that we wanted, and we have some protective element. This is going to leave us needing to draw one of 16 cards to win. Now, 16 is a lot of cards to hit. I think we just take it here, and we'll put back a couple of Dark Depths and see how this game progresses. Our opponent might not know what we're doing here. Oh, Volcanic Fissure. Is our opponent playing mono red? Mono red is like one of the easiest matchups for our deck. I would love you to play a Blood Moon, because then we can just get this Boseiju online whilst we've already played the Dark Depths with no counters, and then we'll be having a great time. Okay, 3 damage off of this Volcanic Fissure. Is it Blood Moon time? It's not Blood Moon time. But we do have the ability to combo off soon, because we now have all of our requisite pieces. A Vampire Hexmage. Oh, we can just go off now. Okay. Against the mono red deck, this is just going to be a relatively free win here. Let's go for crop rotation. Get rid of this. Go and get Urborg. Play the Dark Depths. Play the Hexmage. I will make it now, because if our opponent is mono red, they could be Painter, which can then just Pyroblast our land if they play a Painter, and that's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to make the Dark Depths now and put our opponent to the test. Because they've shown us stuff that looks like a mono-red Stompy deck. I don't think they're Painter, I think they're just mono-red Stompy, which means they have 0 answers to Marit Lage in their main deck. When Red Stompy was like the most popular deck, or one of the 2 most popular decks in the format, it was a great time to be playing Turbodepths, because you absolutely destroy them again and again. They only got rid of 1 card. Are they playing a build with Ensnaring Bridge? Because we have that covered as well. I don't think they're going to have main deck Dead Gone, which is the usual way out of the sideboard that they try and interact with our Marit Lage. Yeah, sure, I'll take this free block. They obviously just need the mana for something here. Apologies that this is the Ang avatar. As the person who owns the Marit Lage, I'm obviously very upset with seeing this staring back at me. The One Ring. Okay, that buys them a turn. The problem is, that turn doesn't actually matter that much if they don't have a direct answer to our Marit Lage. Okay, does it matter what we play here? I don't believe so. I'll play this basic out and deploy the Sylvan Safekeeper. Just in case you do have any answers in your deck, now you don't. Is their plan to somehow just keep chaining One Rings and win the game that way? But they're going to have to try and find a way through this 2020 to deal damage to us as well. Alright, we're drawing off the One Ring. Are we scooping it up yet, opponent? Unless there's some new tech from the Turtle set that I'm unfamiliar with that these decks are running that is going to answer a 2020. Another copy of the One Ring. Yep, we're going to continue to do this little song and dance. If our opponent puts anything scary on the stack next turn that we care about the Reflection of Kikijiki hand, like doing some weird stuff with, we can just Boseiju out of the way. We don't have a way to get through the One Ring, we just have to kind of wait. But against a deck that doesn't pack answers to Marit Lage, it doesn't really matter. If we draw any sort of hand disruption we can't use at this turn, so that's probably what we're going to draw. We did not draw the hand disruption. I will play this Bayou, and I will pass the turn. We have 3 bubbles of Shroud for our Marit Lage. We have an answer to an Ensnaring Bridge if that's what you're drawing to. The Trinisphere is interesting. Maybe it suggests they have more like traditional prison pieces, so Ensnaring Bridge might not be such a stretch. I've got plenty of lands here. Pyrogoyf. Do I care about this? So this deals us 4 damage. The next one deals us another 8 damage. Do I just kill this? I don't think we're dead here, right? Did they play a land yet this turn? They play the Ancient Tombs. They don't have a land drop. They might have some fast mana, though. Am I supposed to just take this out and assume they don't have access to an Ensnaring Bridge? Is this bait? So this is 4 damage. The next one, they both hit me. So that's 8 damage. That's still only 12 damage. I think this is fine. So they both see here. So they both deal me 4 damage. But how are you stopping yourself dying to Marit Lage? Or is this just, I want to show you how much damage I can do? And we don't care about the haste because we've got an indestructible blocker that's enormous. I think the way we would lose here is if they have like Spirit Guide, and Snaring Bridge. So I think holding this to make sure we don't die to that makes sense. Alright, we've got a lag spike which usually indicates your opponent's scooping. And there it is. Okay, we've managed to pair into a pretty good matchup, which is nice. 4 Abrupt Decays come in, and that's about it. The Pithing Needles aren't amazing. We haven't seen like Khan, which is sometimes something you'll see. Bojuka Bog is an easy cut in this particular matchup. The hand disruption stuff is all well and good. If we're boarding in a bunch of stuff that doesn't get found by once upon a time, it's sometimes useful to get rid of those. How much do I like protective spells? If we've seen a Trinisphere, I'm not sure how useful our Not of This World is going to be. So this is a pretty easy 4 for 4. And if we want to have another Safekeeper in just to play around Dead Gone, we can do that. Is it probably just going to be over the Pithing Needle? I think that's reasonable here. And we'll submit and see how we go. But yeah, this matchup is very, very favourable for us as a general rule. Quite often, their Blood Moons actually just help us. They need to have multiple Blood Moons for it to work. So we've got a green source for a Abrupt Decay, if that's where we want to go with this one. But we don't have the Abrupt Decay. We don't have any way to our combo. We're just relying on this once upon a time. I think we can do better on 6. This doesn't really go anywhere. We'll go to 5 again. Okay, I like this one. We keep this one. Keep these 2. We keep the Once Upon a Time. We definitely keep at least 1 Abrupt Decay, potentially 2. Is it the Sylvan Scrying and the Crop Rotation that goes? Crop Rotation does allow us to just get our combo going at some point. Definitely the Safekeeper. It's one of these 2. How many scary permanents do I think they're going to have? Right, we're going to keep the Crop Rotation. So turn 1 Blood Moon can sometimes be a good route for them, but they didn't have the turn 1 Blood Moon. So our game plan here is pretty good, I would say. Okay, we drew the Abrupt Decay that I kind of wanted earlier anyway. Let's cast a free spell. An Urborg and a Vampire Hexmage. I will take... It's kind of interesting here, isn't it? I think it's the Urborg. But we're not playing it out. Right, then we play out this fetch land. This way we can go and fetch a green source if our opponent plays a Blood Moon. And then we can crop rotate for a swamp. And then we can just play this Dark Depths, comes in with no counters, we abrupt decay the moon effect, and we win the game. Hexmage can also mess with like chalices and things as well. There is the Urborg our opponent knows about already. Just pass it over. What is in our opponent's hand if they're not doing anything? Just a bunch of 3-drops and they had no acceleration. But maybe they had like the Dead and Gone and they wanted to try that one out. Chromox, you got it. Are we just going to start doing One Ring things straight away? Like, I could blow this up in response to the make mana trigger. So before they get to imprint it. But I don't think that's worth doing. 3 mana. Laelia Blade Reforged. Okay. Let's see what it reveals. Ancient Tomb. Okay. Yeah, I can take 3 here. That's not an issue. I'm quite interested in drawing a Vampire Hexmage. This is always getting a forest anyway. So I may as well just take the marginal thinning here. We didn't hit it. So now we have the combo. We float 2 mana here, then we turn this into a Thespian Stage and it activates on the depths. Let's see what they reveal with this. Again, I don't really care about taking 4 damage here. Right, there's a Pyrogoyf. Are you going to take your value of getting that Pyrogoyf into play? Can you resist the value? Or are you holding up something? A Chrome Mox. So 3 mana is the breakpoint for the stuff that actually interacts with the Marit Lage. So if they tap below 3 mana, this should be a pretty easy 20/20. Was that a Fury? Doesn't seem great against us, your Fury. Right, they're tapping out of that amount of mana, but they might have a Spirit Guide. But I guess, yeah, okay, they're just playing this out. So how much does this deal? 2 damages. Not a lot. We go to the end step. Black, black, green. Crop rotate away, the Urborg. Disruptor Flute, you say? Interesting. Interesting. So this is going to name Thespian Stage. Hopefully our opponent remembers what it's called for their sake. Alright, so there's a slight wrinkle on this one, but we're still fine. Our opponent is now Hellbent as well. They needed the last 2 cards in their hand to be exactly what they had. But we already have an answer for the Disruptor Flute. Hexmage is probably our best draw. Alright. We found Thespian Stage in the end, and there it is. And we still get the Thespian Stage here. We didn't get to activate this, unfortunately. We can remove a counter from this, though. A piece of fast mana works here as well. So, like, a Lotus Petal or an Elvish Spirit Guide gives us the Marit Lage. Not a piece of fast mana. I think we have to kill the Laelia and then kill the Disruptor Fruit on the following turn. Just make sure our life total is padded enough. This does grow the Pyrogoyf by 1, I think, yeah. We take 3 here. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. But next turn we just have our combo. Alright, they just drew a mountain, so not great for them. Alright, I'll just play this swamp. I think are we more likely to see another Disruptor Flute or a Dead and Gone? I think it's probably more likely to be another Disruptor Flute. Because now we can activate this, and there's no window where our opponent gets to do anything. What do you got? The One Ring. Yep, that'll keep them alive for a turn and maybe draw them into a Pyrogoyf. Our opponent is treading water a little bit here, but they are still alive. Go on, make that Pyrogoyf attack. So we are dead to a second Pyrogoyf. Can't believe they've still got Furies in their deck here, though. It probably means they don't have Dead and Gone. Disruptor Flute. Let's target this. We get to make our 20/20. Why is this going to shut off? Do we play? If we find a Hexmage, we play it and we strip all the counters off the One Ring so our opponent can't draw as many cards next turn. No, we just need to fade the top of our opponent's deck for 1 turn. And the only out they have at this point is the Pyrogoyf, I believe. The Fiery Confluence will only deal us 6 damage. So as long as we don't crack a fetch, we'll be okay. We don't need to crack a fetch. We already have green mana, and this can tap for black underneath our Urborg. So it's our best draw here. Okay, crop rotation. But we can still cast a crop rotation. It just costs more mana, but that's also fine. Vampire Hexmage is okay here. Crop rotation would be good because then we can phase this guy out. Okay, Vampire Hexmage is fine. Black, black. Let's play this out. And we strip the counter off the One Ring so they have fewer draw steps. And then we pass. We could have let this deal them damage, but we don't care about their life total because we already have a lethal threat. So they get their draw for turn and whatever the One Ring finds them. It needs to find them another One Ring or a Pyroglyph. How did you find it? Broadside Bombardiers. This is also lethal, actually, isn't it? Because we block the Pyroglyph, they throw it at us, and then that's lethal. Wowzers. If we had kept the Hexmage alive, it could have played around this, but I think denying our opponent a card was a sensible play here. Alright, they managed to get us. So they had to have the perfect, like, 3 turns in a row here. They need to have the Disruptor Flute Spirit Guide into the top deck One Ring, into the top deck Broadside Bombardiers. And even then it was super duper close. We didn't see anything that's going to be targeting our guys. Do we want to strip out the Safekeepers and just get like a couple of Collector Reefs in to shut down the One Ring? Or we get some Pithing Needles which can shut down the One Ring or Broadside Bombardiers? This hand beats Blood Moon very easily. We do have a route to the combo. Sure, we keep this one. The only awkward thing here is this fetch land. Because we want it to be green for this crop rotation. But we also want it to be black for this Inquisition of Kozilek. So it's kind of a tough sell here as to which one we're supposed to go for. I think we just play out our Lotus Petal here. And pass. City of Traitors. What are we going for? Chalice of the Void, X equals 1. Is that a card I care about right now? We could just crop rotate straight away. But then we lose our green source, which we might need for our Abrupt Decay. If we draw a black source off the top, it's very good for us. Okay. I think we're on the get Bayou, crop rotate into Dark Depths here. Just to make sure we've got it available. Our opponent doesn't really interact with our lands that much. I guess they have Sundering Eruption. So this Inquisition of Kozilek is no longer on. You're playing another Chalice on 0. So it's going to shut off their Moxes. Which is a bit sketchy when they have a City of Traitors over there. A Duress. I will deploy the Thespains Stage. So any mana gets us a 20/20. What are we up to now? So Kenzen, you got it. Blood Moon. That's fine. We already have the answer to that in hand. We just need to find a green source. We've got a lot of them in our deck. Let me just pass it over. So we've got 4 Spirit Guides. I guess we don't get to play any more Lotus Petals. But we can find our black basic as well is also fine. We just need green or black mana. Spirit Guide time? Not Spirit Guide time. But I will certainly take a land for when we break out of this. We get to just pop off. Disruptor Flute. Are we going to be naming the Abrupt Decay here? Or are we going to be naming... Because this makes it so I can't cast the Abrupt Decay, so it costs more expensive. They're just going to name this on the Thespian Stage. Because we have a Hexmage anyway. So that's not an issue. We've got both routes to the combo, so this doesn't really stop us. So I think it's going to be Abrupt Decay. Oh yeah, they just named Hexmage. Sure. Not naming the one on board is interesting. A land. What have we got? A Lotus Petal. Oh, that just goes straight into the Chalice, doesn't it? Whoops. A Shadow Skull. We got a thing. X equals 2. Again, this doesn't stop us if we can just find our Elvish Spirit Guide. We can just win straight away. Because this mana will blow up the Blood Moon, but we also float mana off the Dark Depths first. So we can just turn the Thespian Stage into Dark Depths and go. So we just need to draw one of a numerous number of sources. So we've got our 2 basics and our 4 Spirit Guides. So we're on a 6 outer and we have been for like 4 turns. You're going to start throwing chalices at me? Sejiri Steppe. Does this matter? No. I will leave this in hand. Again, we're drawing to a 6 outer, which is a pretty stacked amount of cards we're drawing to. Like, our opponent's hand doesn't seem to be doing much more right now. An Urborg. Okay, I will play that out. So we're getting to the point where our opponent might start throwing some stuff at us with the Bombardiers to close the clock down. But our opponent has 5 hate permanents against us. And we're still just 1 card away from beating them. which kind of shows you what this matchup is like most of the time. Okay, the One Ring I'm less of a fan of seeing, because this just gives them the actual gas, which is what their hand is sort of lacking here. Not one of the ones we wanted here. I'll play out the Sejiri Steppe and pass. Second Broadside Bombardier. So this hits us for 4. That puts us to 9. This is 4, 5, 6. And then 7, 8, 9, 10. So not quite lethal. Alright, so this deals 5. So it can deal us 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is just lethal, actually. I think our opponent has this one if they are bold enough to throw everything else. Which they should do. Yep, so they're throwing the Spirit Guy. Then one can just throw the other guy. And that's lethal. Or they can throw the One Ring. Okay, yeah, sometimes you will lose to your 80 to 90% matchups, and that was just one of those situations. Where is our basic? A long way down. Yeah, we needed quite a few more turns there. So we could have just not crop rotated in response to the Chalice. That was another option we had available to us, where we could have just held back. We also could have just gone turn 1 Bayou and Inquisitioned our opponent. But the thing is, I wanted to play around the Blood Moon a little bit. And then we ended up having to play around the Chalice, but then they also had the Blood Moon. So like they had 5 hate pieces. I'm not sure how many of them were relevant. I think these 3 were relevant, because if this wasn't on 0, then we killed them with the Lotus Petal ages ago. So they had 3 relevant hate permanents against us there, and it was just a little bit too much. All right, I'd happily play this matchup all day, every day, because it's very easy, but sometimes you will lose, because there's not really 100% matchups in Legacy. Let's go to round number 2. The mana on our hand is really awkward. So we can go turn 1, Sylvan Scrying for Dark Depths. But then what? You know? I think we could do better. Like 1 Urborg and then his hand is bananas. Or like 1 coloured mana source. I don't think we can keep this. When our deck mulligans so well, I don't think we need to keep hands that look like that. We also don't need to keep hands that look like this either. Alright, this one is pretty solid. We'll keep this. What are we looking at here? We'll probably chuck the step back. It just requires 1 more land to do what it's doing, which is not bad on a 5. Actually, we don't even need the land, do we? Because we have the Spirit Guide. Guess I'll put back this Thoughtseize since we can't cast it. What are you up to, opponent? A Bayou. A Noble Hierarch. So probably looking at some sort of Cradle Control style decklist, which again is a matchup I've historically been very good against. What do I play here, and does it matter? I think I'll play the Thespians Stage. Some of these Cradle Control decks do run a very small Dark Depths package, so I don't want to just hang out the Dark Depths and maybe get bodied by their one-off Thespians Stage at some point. If we draw a Hexmage, we can still make a 20/20 next turn, because we can crop rotate this. Badger Mole Cub. Yep, we're just going to animate this Bayou, which then produces an additional mana. White of the Reliquary. Now this card is potentially a problem. Well, we haven't cast any spells yet, so let's get our free spell in. Vampire Hexmage, you say. Interesting. I think we just have to put our opponent to the test here. We don't want to get burned by a wasteland, so we're just going to make the Merit Lage right now. A Sylvan Safekeeper. Okay. Guy's Cradle. Are we just going to get mashed by something here? I suspect what their plan is to go and get the Talon Gates of Madara. Just phase out our Merit Lage for a turn. Right, sacrificing a Hierarch. If they've got the Natural Order, they can just kill us next turn. And obviously I'm not going to be happy about that. A Vampire Hexmage. That seems like a reasonable card to have in play. The first strike can hold back a bunch of guys as well. We don't have a large body to defend against anything. Okay, so it's a Thoughtseize into whatever that last card in hand is. Do they have a second Talon Gates of Madara? A lot of lists have been skimping on this, so they don't have the Echoing Deeps anymore either. We're just getting Natural Ordered though. Green Sun Zenith X equals 4. What does that get them, I wonder? Probably... Alright, it's just another Badger Mole Cub. Ah, I see. I see what is happening here. This is going to allow them to bring this one back and phase our guy out for another turn. Yep, that's a pretty good one. And they've got multiple ways of doing it. They can either sack it to the Safekeeper or they can sack it to the white and get another land out. We don't really have any recourse into this Whited Reliquary. Amusingly, if we'd have just played the Ghost Quarter this turn, instead of playing out the Hexmage, we would have been able to defeat this play. That's something worth thinking about. I'll play an additional threat. I'd like to go to attacks, please. I'm going to phase out my guy. Yeah, so the Ghost Quarter last turn instead of the Hexmage wins it for us. Maybe that's just a better play rather than the Hexmage. Like, what was the Hexmage actually doing? It was just holding us back from taking damage. Our opponent's living off the top. Do you have anything? Alright, they didn't have anything, and we eventually get there with Mole Merit Lage. To the sideboard, I would like to have access to things that kill their guys and things that protect my guy. That seems like important stuff here. This is not really a matchup about hand disruption, so the hand disruption becomes these sorts of things. So I think we want the Abrupt Decays and the Safekeepers. And then I don't really think this is a particularly good matchup for the Bojuka Bog, so we'll get in another Not of This World there. All these other stuff is very much what we want here. We're boarding in a bunch of stuff that doesn't get found. Actually, no, that's not true. The Sylvan Safekeepers do get found by them once upon a time. But if we just want this extra Not of This World to protect against Talon gates and things like that, or is having 6 of these effects enough? Is it greedy to have a 7th effect? Now, we've also got the crop rotations as well. Now, I think that's fine with these numbers. Like, the Thoughtseize can take out our opponent's like natural orders and things, but a lot of these decks aren't on natural order at the moment, which is wild to me. But that is the nature of the game sometimes. This is a turn 1 Merit Lage with protection. Let's try not to get Thoughtseize, please. Just a guy. That's fine by me. Alright, this is very much doing the thing here. I will take this Urborg for later. Right, black and black. Let's make this guy. Make this guy. Make this guy. And we've got an Not of This World to protect it. Good luck, opponent. Sometimes a turn 1 2020 is good. So basically we made the turn 1 2020 off of 4 cards, which shows you why you should be mulligan aggressively with our deck. Because sometimes 4 cards is all you need. Alright, a nice little 2 over there. My record against Cradle Control isn't quite as good as my record against Mono Red in my data, but it's very, very favourable. Alright, let's go to round number 3. This hand for round 3, not great. We don't have the other half to go with this. We can Thoughtseize and stuff, and we got some mana. But considering how powerful our hands can be, I'm okay to mulligan this and just go a bit lower. This is basically the same hand, except we have to tutor for our combo piece instead of just having it in hand. So I think we're going to be going to 5 again. We are putting a lot of weight on this Once Upon a Time, but I believe in it. Get rid of one of these Thoughtseizes and probably the Safekeeper. Scrying can find ways to push through blockers. It can also find out just additional lands. And Urza's Saga. You got it. Let's have a free spell. We did hit. Okay, that is a significant part of what we need to do. Let's try not to get wastelanded though. Alright, we're on Painter. Cool. I don't care about this Pyroblast until Painter gets involved. Painter only gets involved when Imperial Recruiter gets involved, which can be 2 turns time. Goblin Welder is pretty messed up though. Let's get rid of Goblin Welder. Especially since there's now a new combo that goes with Goblin Welder and just goes infinite like out of nowhere. We need a land to be printed that's like an Elvish Spirit Guide or a land. So you can have like a one-off burst of mana, or you can just play it as like a tap land or something. That would be cool. I am concerned about the Pithing Needle that might be coming off of this. Let's go and Sylvan Scrying. What do we need here? Is it just the Boseiju and be ready for it? I think it is. So here comes the first guy. Are we going to get skateboarded? Oh, they've got something better than a skateboard. Because they're not making a guy here. That's really worrying. Grindstone. Are we just dead this turn? Ah, we are just dead this turn. Cool. No chat. It was not cool. He's going to fire this in now. Alright, you got me. Yeah, a pretty quick turn 3 on the play kill for our opponent there. Now, Painter again is a matchup that I'm pretty happy with. We have some good tools for this matchup. We don't need to protect our creature because they're not really doing anything that interacts with our creature. Bojuka Bog is sometimes useful here. I don't think we need the Sejiri Steppe, actually. Talon gates to phase out there. Painter is actually kind of big. I'm not like a lover of all this discard. So we end up with something that looks like this. Now you might be saying, why are you running Collector Roof and Lotus Petal together? And we do need the mana from Lotus Petal. And just getting this mana down early and then using it to play a Collector Roof is totally fine. This leyline is because of the new combo that Painter has access to using the Sewer Valence cam. So this is just to sort of make sure that we're doing our due diligence, because that can kill you on turn 2. I think it's actually better than the Painter combo, but it is very vulnerable to Graveyard Hate. We've got a Pithing Needle. We've got a Crop Rotation. Like, this works. I don't really know what we're going to be putting our Pithing Needle on yet. It's either going to be on Goblin Welder or it's going to be on Grindstone. We just need to see what our opponent plays first. I'd rather get this on Welder and then find like the Collector Roof to shut off the Grindstone. And then we just got everything covered then. Because the Welder combo just ignores the Grindstone. Sorry, it just ignores the Collector Roof or Null Rod style cards. We don't need to crack this yet. Let's go to our turn. See what we draw. So we can play off of basics if we want here. Alright, Pithing Needle. Goblin Welder, please. So our combo is a little bit slower here, but we are trying to interact with our opponent. We've also got this Crop Rotation, which can phase out a Painter if they assemble that combo. Goblin Beats. Here it comes. 1 damage to the face. An Abrupt Decay. Not unhappy to see that one. We can play out this Dark Depths. We can just hold open this Abrupt Decay. And then next turn we can just Crop Rotation in our opponent's end step to kill them. So just take it relatively chilled. Interesting selection of mountains our opponent's gone for there. Is this a Disruptor Flute? Sure. That's fine. And name the Thespians Stage. Makes sense. Maybe we're supposed to crack the Verdant Catacombs then. Just to be sure. Blood Moon is a thing our opponent can do as well. Scalding Tarn does suggest that our opponent is on Sewer Valence cam. I haven't seen Painter decks not on it that are doing well. Okay, here's the Volcanic Island that kind of confirms it. That's a Grindstone. If we blow up this Disruptor Flute right now, how in trouble are we to a Painter? I think we need to take this mana efficient play though. Because we can't just not do anything with our mana that turn. A Pithing Needle. Do we need to go slower here? I don't think our opponent has the mana, and if they do, we can Crop Rotate and Talon Gates. It's awkward, but we can do it. I think just putting our opponent to a test and trying to win the game is a better plan. So our opponent needs to come up with a Soul Land this turn. And then we can phase it out, and then we can just play the Pithing Needle, and then we just need to Sylvan Scrying for the other piece, and we're fine. Right, that is not a Soul Land. Good news for us. I think we're probably going to turn the Bayou into the Thespains Stage, and that way we get to maintain our ability to cast Abrupt Decay underneath a Blood Moon if that happens. We want our opponent to tap out for something here. I don't think they're going to, though. What are they doing with this 3 mana? Let's pop this. Do you have another Disruptor Flute? Alright, here comes your friend and mine, Marit. If they have interaction... Okay, so they're just going to Sewer Valence cam here. That's fine. So this buys them a turn. This is like a new tool in their arsenal that's actually pretty good against us, weirdly. Okay, and Abrupt Decay is a good one. I'll play out this Dark Depths. We can't really afford to do anything else here because playing the Pithing Needle I don't think is as good as holding up the Abrupt Decay. Right, they've got enough mana to play a Painter and fire it off. Having shut down this Welder is good news for us. Right, the Welder chips in just in case this game goes a bit longer. There's 2 cards on our opponent's hand, but they're going to have to basically tap out, but they could still tap out and then Sewer Valence cam us. Right, here comes this. We will blow up this Painter in response. Is that game, or do you have another Sewer Valence cam? Sewer Valence cam buys them a turn, but then we probably, if we draw a land, we get to drop this Pithing Needle. Alright, so I do have the Sewer Valence cam. So I'm going to tap down our Marit. They can start sacrificing these to draw cards. This new tool being good against us in Painter decks is of some concern, I would say. Another Abrupt Decay. Like, it doesn't hurt, does it, to have that? If our opponent can come up with a Painter right now, we're just dead. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there and Surveillance Cam again and again and again. If we can find a land, we can play a Pithing Needle on Surveillance Cam, so we kill our opponent one turn quicker. The little Goblin Welder that could. It's done 5 damage, I think, now. You're going to draw from that Surveillance Cam before we get a card in hand. That would make sense to me. Yep, drawing 2 cards. It's pretty good. Go to sleep, Marit. A Lotus Petal. I kind of want to use this because it's much more difficult for them to interact with our lands than it is our Lotus Petal. Even though that looks really weird. What's happening here? Alright, Surveillance Cam is being cracked. I wasn't going to name that anyway. They could have untapped our Marit Lage and been a friend, but they decided not to. This is just going to name Grindstone. If I were our opponent, I don't think I would crack that Surveillance Cam. I'd probably just give us the option of naming Grindstone or Surveillance Cam and not necessarily knowing which is the right one because we don't know what's in our opponent's hand. They have just completely refilled from both of these as well. Melted Moxite. Yep, this goes infinite with Welder if they can ever get rid of our Pithing Needle. So this discards them a card, then they draw 2. So this and the Surveillance Cam lets them draw their entire deck and put any card they want into their graveyard. Deck is really sweet. I'm not enjoying what these Surveillance Cams are doing to poor Marit Lage. Like, it's been worth 3 time walks on the old Surveillance Cam there. Not bad. Well, 3 time walks and also 4 cards. Alright. They didn't have anything else. Good news. Do I want some stuff to protect my guy from Surveillance Cam? I don't think we do. I just think the plan we have is good enough already. Because they can't remove it, they're just going to tap it down. And as long as we're not losing the game through other things, I think that's fine. So let's just go right back in. And we can sometimes protect it using a Sejiri Steppe, because it is a blue thing. Although we bought out our Sejiri Steppe, didn't we? Maybe the Sejiri Steppe is better than the Talon Gates, actually. And we should make that little swap. This hand is bad. It doesn't do very much. We can make a turn 1 Collector Roof and then die to their grinder, their welder combo. Sorry. I think we're just going to mulligan this one. I would like to have a game plan of our own that actually wins. Mulligan. What does this hand do? We leyline them and do nothing else. Let's go to 5. Alright, this hand is good. What do we want to get rid of? I like having this green source. I don't think we need this Spirit Guide. Can't believe we have to get rid of 2 cards though. That's just rude. Maybe it's the Sylvan Scrying that goes and just maintain our green mana and hope that the Pithing Needle and Hexmage do enough. What are you playing, opponent? An Urza's Saga. So we get to go off before this pops off, which is interesting. Alright, let's play... We'll play this Pithing Needle. What I'm more worried about, Welder or Paint or the Painter Grindstone combo. Because Grindstone's going to take a couple of turns to go off here. I don't think we're naming Saga. I think it's Welder. Because even without something to go infinite, like the 3rd piece, they can still just tap our guy down every turn if they have the Surveillance Cam. And that is no good for us. I don't particularly want to see a Blood Moon here. We didn't see a Blood Moon. Good news. Let's play this out. Let's go Hexmage. Just make it now to dodge this Pithing Needle that we know is coming. If we don't do this, that is. Like I said, I don't think they have a way of answering this. Unless they're playing like a one-of Ether Spellbomb. But I haven't seen that in any list, so I'm not playing around it. I don't think the deck's desperate for answers to Marit Lage. It's not really about that sort of life. Its answer to Marit Lage is combo you underneath it. They made a construct. Are they going to make a second construct? Or is this just, we're done? Okay, it's mana time. Am I going to have named the wrong thing with this Pithing Needle and get killed by Welder? By Grindstone. There's a Grindstone. There's another Ancient Tomb. Do you have Painter here? They do indeed. Alright, looks like we're going to lose to Painter here. We just named the wrong one with Pithing Needle. So that is slightly more predictable than you would think, because they didn't play any red source on 1. So are we supposed to worry about Welder? Maybe we just named poorly with our Pithing Needles. Like, we could say, oh, it was a 50-50 and we picked the wrong one. But we could have named the Grindstone because we already saw the Urza Saga. And that's going to get Grindstone on turn 3. And that's going to be active the same turn that a Welder is. So I think we maybe just named the wrong thing here. And we're playing for a longer game because we assumed our opponent was settling into making guys instead of making us dead. Interesting. Let's go to round number 4. Okay, another round in. What are we doing? It's going to be quite difficult to leverage this in a way that gets us a Merit Lage in the first couple of turns of the game here. I think we can do a little bit better. Okay, I like a Lotus Petal as much as the next person, but this is a little bit too many deck. Let's go to 5. We are mulling into 5 a lot today. Okay, this works. 2 of these cards have got to go. I guess we just keep the green sources. The important thing is we need to be able to cast the Hexmage. Yeah, it is these 2 that go. Or we could... I'm just trying to make sure that we're Thoughtseize proof, because that's kind of the only thing that we can make ourselves able to beat here. The Talon Gates 100% go. 100% goes. Then it's either a Hexmage or the Scrying. Are we trying to play around Thoughtseize, or are we trying to have like a way of playing around a blocker? I haven't played against Tamir yet, so let's go try and play around a blocker, I think. So let's put back this Hexmage. Deploy the Swamp and pass. An Urza's Saga. What flavour of Urza's Saga are we looking at here? Well, a Thoughtseize is a good way to work that out. I haven't actually seen a lot of hand disruption today, even though we've got quite a lot. Okay, we're doing some more painter stuff. Double Engineer is really annoying. The Painter's Servant is annoying. The Sewer Valence Cam is also annoying. At least we can beat the Ensnaring Bridge. Or can we? I guess we just have to take this Painter's Servant, as annoying as that is. Sewer Valence can be an extra wrinkle in making what was once a very easy matchup slightly more difficult. It's definitely an annoying one. Oh, thanks for showing up now once upon a time. Big fan of having that right now. Not on turn 0 where you're supposed to be around. Right, we're just going to make the guy. We need to beat Ensnaring Bridge, and we need to beat the Sewer Valence Cam. There is a Painted Servant in the graveyard, which means the Goblin Engineer can eventually just get back the win. But do they have time to do that? They probably just end up playing the Ensnaring Bridge this turn, would be my guess. So Sewer Valence Cam doesn't go infinite with Goblin Engineer, but it does allow you for a bunch of mana to move around your objects quite a lot. So they can get back whatever they want, pretty much. So there is the Ensnaring Bridge that we expected. So we need to draw an untapped land or a... Yeah, it's an untapped land or the Boseiju itself. That's kind of like an untapped land, isn't it? Let's go and get the Boseiju. Let's Boseiju this Ensnaring Bridge. Oh, they made a mistake. I guess this is tapped, right? Yeah, so they made a mistake here. They should have tapped the Mox Opal for mana to play the Sewer Valence Cam. I will certainly capitalise on that mistake our opponent has made. Because they're off of Metalcraft now. Yeah, our opponent sees it too. Okay. We've seen how this plays out. So, a bunch of Abrupt Decays. A couple of Collector Roofs. This stuff for their graveyard combo. We don't really want the hand disruption as much. Talon Gates. Oh, Talon Gates phase out Painter. Maybe we're just not getting rid of any of the lands here. Sylvan Safekeeper goes. And then what? Probably a Once Upon a Time. Something along those lines seems okay to me. I think that game would have been interesting if our opponent obviously played the Sewer Valence Cam first. It could have been interesting to see how that game sort of panned out from that point onwards. We have an answer. We don't have access to Merit Lage though. I think we need to work towards having access to things. Okay, this looks good. Chuck the Sejiri Steppe into the deck because we don't want that anyway. Our opponent is mulligan to 5. Not an ideal one. A Goblin Welder, you say? Are we going to die really, really soon? I don't know. If I want to crop rotate anything away on this particular board with this hand, it's going to be this Dark Depths. So I'm going to play the Dark Depths out with the intention of this being the thing we crop rotate away because we already have another one. If we turn this into a Bojuka Bog, that's okay. And it's going to cost us our only green source. Are we getting the Goblin Welder beats going? How much damage will I take from Goblin Welder this league? Who knows? The little goblin that could. So now I think it is... If we play this out, we have the combo. Because this taps for 2 mana, and then we crop rotate to go and get Thespains Stage, which then copies this. Because if you have the Dark Depths and you can tap it before sacking the Urborg, then you put yourself in a good position. Let's see what our opponent is up to here. Now they can kill us with Surveillance Cam out of nowhere. So we do have to be wary about that. But I'm just hoping our opponent plays out some sort of mid-rangey piece. And then it gives us the ability to pop off. They don't have as many mid-rangey pieces now they're off of the Fate of the Mirror Breaker. Alright, they've got to play. Just tap out for, I don't know, Blood Moon. Okay, they are tapping out for this. Okay, let's go black and black. Let's crop rotate away this. And here comes the 2020. This is much more like I expect the Painter matchup to go. Alright, and we get the match. 4 rounds down relatively quickly. We are 2-2. The 2 games we lost were very close, actually. I think they definitely could have gone either way. Like if we'd have named the other thing with the Pithing Needle, which I think was actually the correct name, and that's just my fault there. I think we could have intuited that that was the thing that was going to beat us there. I was just playing for a slightly longer game, which is just not the way to play. Giving too much respect to the new plan, which I haven't played against very much with Turbodepths. Anyway, 1 round to go. Let's see if we can put a positive record on. This opener is no good to me, but let's mulligan. Okay, this one goes on turn 2, using a very similar line to what we had just now. So I think we just put back the redundant Dark Depths here. A basic plains. Not always a lover of the old basic plains for us. Let's play out an Urborg. And a Lotus Petal. So the variety of Yori on deck our opponent is playing is most likely Death and Taxes after seeing this basic plains. It could still be like the sort of domainy build. Okay, a Caracas as well. Cool. A White Orchid Phantom. Sure, I'll go and get a basic. Let's go and get a Forest here is fine. We play out the Dark Depths. We tap for 2. We crop rotate it into lethal. Okay, I think we just play this out and hope that our opponent taps low enough on this Caracas. The issue for us is if they just go land and second White Orchid Phantom. That becomes a really irritating one for us. Or Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter is good too. But they don't have to do anything now. They can just sit there and just pepper us with this over 5 to 10 turns, and then we die. Depending on how many other things they throw alongside it. Oh, no, opponent. Well, actually, depends what they get with this. If they get a Solitude, then that's really annoying. I think it has to be the Solitude here. That's the most sensible thing. It is the Solitudes. They are tapped out when we can't do anything about it. We can make Marilage, but we will die to the Solitude. I don't believe my opponent will wait until our turn. Okay, another crop rotation. So we can cast both of these crop rotations. So one of them is a protection spell. But is our opponent going to tap out again? Is one... So they've got the Solitude. But we also have a Caracas that we have to worry about as well. Yuck. This matchup is disastrous for us, to be fair. I did write like a big spreadsheet for last Eternal Weekend of the matchup, all the matchups and like which band they fall into, like percentage-wise. Just tap that Caracas, opponent. That's all you need to do. Just a little tap on that Caracas and the Ghost Quarter. Just play something out. Rely on your Solitude to get there. Alright. A Stoneforge Mystic, you say? Now the problem is they still have 2 pieces of interaction because they got the Ghost Quarter and the Solitude. And we don't have the way of defending that just yet. Oh, a second Caracas. Alright, opponent. I see how it is. It's going to be a quick league. Well, we do have tools to help this matchup. We have quite a lot of them as well. We have a bunch of Sylvan Safekeepers, and we have these Not of This World. Some amount of Abrupt Decay is also quite useful here. I'm not super in love with the Hand Disruption. We want all these things though. Spawning all this in. Do we need... So the Pithing Needles are really useful here as well. I don't think we want to cut mana because we want to be able to go fast. I just don't think we play the full set of Abrupt Decays here. Because there are definitely things we need to Abrupt Decay. So if we got like one turn to get through, we need to make sure that the flyer isn't there. And there can be some other annoying permanents to deal with as well. I don't feel good about this one though. Wish I'd have named the right thing with that Pithing Needle against the Painter matchup now. And secured our positive record, because this could be a difficult one. But sometimes we just make a turn 1 Marit Lage protected. What does this one do? This is a turn 2 Marit Lage protected. That's good enough. It's double protected as well. Doesn't get much better than this. For us at least. Let's play this out. Do I need to play out this Lotus Petal? I don't think so. Play out next turn. Which Blessed Meadow tapped? Oh, I do love the old Sylvan Safekeeper here, but I don't think we need it. We have double protection in hand. Let's do this now, I think. Keep this one. Alright, we got a Marit Lage. They're going to be like, ha ha ha, you got a Marit Lage. We're just going to kill it with Swords to Plowshares. And I'm going to say no. And they're going to be, oh, we're going to kill it with Solitude. And I'm going to be also no. Boom. No thank you, Swords to Plowshares. How many Solitudes in your hand? You're an 80 card deck. Like, I'm playing around. Okay, they just had the 1 removal spell. Good news, everyone. We managed to get there. Am I okay with this setup? I still think I like the Abrupt Decays because something like a Stoneforge Mystic can be a real pain as well. We're just going to go in with what we've got. This doesn't actually go anywhere. So we need to go back in and fish for something better. Deck, please. We have multiplied 5 too many times this league. That is my opinion of this one. This is fine for what it is. This definitely. Not this. Probably the Spirit Guide. I would have loved to have had 6 of these cards instead of just 5. Let's draw for turn and fire off for Once Upon a Time. Sylvan Scrying is okay. Let's cast this Once Upon a Time. Dark Depths, Thespains Stage. Okay, we're going to take the stage here. And I think we're going to deploy this Pithing Needle and we're going to name Wasteland. They're going to be running 4 Wastelands. They probably only have 1 Ghost Quarter. But they could have a couple more. But I'm not expecting them to be like jam-packed with Ghost Quarters. Although, since he's seen the White Orchid Phantom, they might just be going 4 Ghost Quarter, 4 Wasteland and be an absolute baller. Right, this is going to name Thespains Stage. It's the onboard thing. But that's fine. We just need to find a little bit more black mana. This is another reason to bring in the Abrupt Decays as well. Or a Boseiju. That works too. Am I casting this Sylvan Scrying? We have to get it off of a Bayou, but I think that's fine. Let's go Sylvan Scrying here. We've already got the Boseiju in hand. I think that means we're getting a Ghost Quarter. It's a Ghost Quarter or it's an Urborg. Well, maybe just get the Urborg. So the Ghost Quarter is insulation against Caracas. That's why we might want that. But we already have the Boseiju, which can do that. Thalia doesn't impact what we're doing here. The Ghost Quarter is annoying, but we have it beat. Elvish Spirit Guide. If they Ghost Quarter our Urborg, then we just go and get a Black Source anyway. So it doesn't matter. So we've still got the Swamp in our deck. And then the plan is we Dark Depths. And we also have the Boseiju to deal with something. Flagstones. You got it. Only 3 cards in our opponent's hand. First damage coming across. How many cards in your hand are removal spells, though? Feels like more than I would like. Okay, so we've angled ourselves into a position where the Vampire Hexmage can make us a 20/20. Do I run this out now or not? Expose it to Ghost Quarter when we don't have a backup plan just yet. I think I'm just going to play out a second Thespian Stage and play it a little bit cautiously here. We don't get the super fast thing that we want. Okay, Felia. Hate Felia. No good. So they can blink out our Pithing Needle and just fire off Wastelands this turn as well. That's always a disgusting thing that the deck can do. They're not big on actual business here, though. The Felia probably has to blink out our Hexmage or the Hexmage Gobbles in combat. Sure. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Okay, putting Sky, Nomad, Yorion into hand. Cool. Is that something you want to actually play out there, opponent? Because I am skeptical if that is the case. Let's play out this Dark Depths and we will pass. So we can use this Boseiju to hit the Ghost Quarter. The issue we have is Felia. Our opponent hasn't been playing anything, which means the only thing that makes sense for them to have in hand is removal spells. So we're going to need to find some protection. Also, the second Ghost Quarter is horrible. We name Wasteland, and then they just have 2 Ghost Quarters. Sometimes it's just not your day. But that is definitely one of the weaknesses of Turbodepths. It's not worth us doing anything here. We just have to let this go and go and get our swamp. We are not having a wonderful Christmas time here. Let's find something good off the top. Nope, nothing useful. Are we in casting Elvish Spirit Guide mode? Maybe we are. The last refuge of a scoundrel. Hard casting Elvish Spirit Guide. So now we have 2 blockers for the Felia, so they might not be able to block, might not be able to attack with the Felia this turn, which slows down the damage we take. Generally speaking, when you play against the Death and Taxes deck, if it goes past turn 5, you've lost. Like, our deck isn't great in the long game against the Death and Taxes deck. Now, sometimes, you know, we can get all of our pieces in a row. But I think the naming of the Wasteland and then our opponent just drawing no Wastelands but 2 Ghost Quarters. That's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. Our opponent could have more Felias in hand, which would explain this attack. They might just be more intent on pushing damages. Alright. Canoptek Scarab Swarm. That makes a bunch of guys that we can't get through. Yeah, there's... I want to scoop. I'm going to take another draw step. But I'm pretty sure we're dead here. Crop rotation. That finds us where we need to go. We can make a 2020 around some stuff here. I guess this is as good as it gets. If they've got a Wildcard Phantom in hand, then we're very dead here. Alright, they're coming in with a bunch of stuff. This is going to just get blinked by the Yorion, isn't it? But we could find a... Oh, I guess if this blinks, they just target themselves. Okay, not doing anything here. Let's get rid of this Ghost Quarter. This is our one shot at freedom from this game. We know one of the cards in their hand is a Yorion. I suspect there is also a Solitude over there. It certainly feels like they've been playing like they have a Solitude. So hitting their own flagstones here. This is our one shot at doing anything. So here is a 2020. They don't have any blockers. I think we're going to gain 20 life, and then this game's going to drag on for a few more turns and we're going to lose. That is my guess. But sometimes they don't have it, and you have to play the game. They do have hard cast Solitude mana. Getting a Shadowy Backstreet in. I believe our opponent is mono white. The Shadowy Backstreet is purely in there as a surveil land they can sometimes grab when they do this exact trick. Path to Exile. Not even 20 life. Alright, opponent. You just wanted it more, I guess. Yeah, horrible matchup, that one. Like, if we're not drawing Not of This World and the Sylvan Safekeeper, especially when we're mulling so deep every time, we're not going to win that one. So we unfortunately went 2 and 3. But the 3 rounds we lost were 1-2. They're all very competitive. 2 of them were good matchups that we lost. One of them, it was the mono-red player who had the perfect 3 turns in a row to get us. And even then, it was super duper close. And I think we could have had one thing to get there. And then the Death and Taxes matchup is just horrible. Like, we're happy we got a game in that one, really. And then the Painter one, we just named the wrong thing with the Pithing Needle. I think we win that game if we name the correct thing. Although they do get to Surveillance cam us and tap us down, so we're kind of going to be sort of waiting for some turns, and we don't know what they can muster in those interim turns. But I think it would have been an interesting game there. So, yeah, not a great showing for the deck, but also not a terrible showing either, because the margins we lost by were certainly uncommon. This league easily could have been a 4-1 with just 1 or 2 tiny slight fluctuations in variance, and that was when we mulled to 5 in like almost every game it felt today. How do I feel about Turbodepths right now? Honestly, I think it's fine. I think what we might actually want to do is cut another discard spell and get another Once Upon a Time in here. Just try and smooth over the opening turn a bit more. Because we pretty much just win with what's in our opening hand a lot of the time. So putting more emphasis on our opening hand by having another Once Upon a Time is probably a good place to be. So if I was to run this back right now, I would probably just go -1 Duress, +1 Once Upon a Time as a starting point and try that out. That's also going to make sure our mana is smoother, and it's going to be easier for some of the mulligans we took today where we didn't quite have the mana we needed. Although we're on a 25 land build rather than the 24, which was the previous stock build. Obviously, that extra land is a Talon Gates, which doesn't necessarily make you mana, but I do like having this as a tool. It has proven to be quite useful. I liked all the stuff we had in the sideboard. It feels like where you want to be right now. We didn't get to play against the blue-black tempo menace, but what I've noticed lately is a lot of the people who were playing blue-black tempo started playing like the mono-black hyper-aggressive deck, which just plays blue purely for the days, and that's it. And I think we're pretty good into the mono-black deck. Certainly better than we are into the blue deck, which has kind of everything, because it's got edicts, it's got ways of tapping our guy down via Kaito, it's got a flying blocker in the form of Tamiyo, it's got hand disruption, it's got counter spells, it's got wasteland. Like the blue-black tempo deck does fight on every single axis that we try to play the game on, whereas a lot of decks only fight on one or two of those axes. So for example, the painter deck is never removing your Marit Lage, so you don't have to worry about removal. It's never attacking your lands, so you don't have to worry about that. It's not countering your spells. It's just trying to do its own little game plan, which we can obviously contend with and disrupt. So there's like a sort of grid of different things that decks do to interact with our deck. And if they interact in too many different layers, it's very difficult. Whereas if like, okay, we don't care about what's in their hand, we can just play a bunch of protection pieces. I found this has been really, really good into a bunch of matchups. Just having discard and protections for like the control matchup, so you go down on some of your faster mana, and that's been very, very good. Since I made that change to how I was playing those control matchups, I found it's now a positive matchup, which is cool. But like when you've got a matchup like blue-black tempo, which can clock you, it can gain life above 20 with Bannergoyf, it can do everything. The deck's just got too many tools for us to handle, and not being good into the top deck is a little bit of a worry, which is why I've kind of been sitting back from playing Turbodepths for a little while. But today, you know, felt pretty good. The margins we lost by were very, very small. And that's with, like, mulls to 5. So I think the deck is solid enough still. I just worry about taking it to a large tournament where you're going to be playing against a bunch of Dimir tempo multiple rounds, I would imagine. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. And if you want to join the Discord, there is a link in the description. And we talk about Turbodepths in there. And you can ask me any sort of questions about the list or any ideas you have. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.